Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tom. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends. It wouldn't be me if I wasn't fashionably late.
Yes, we are late. It is because of Tom. That's what's going on. What's up, everybody in the chat? I hope you're all doing well. I see Haywo's here. We got lots of people here. Haywo, looking forward to tomorrow night. It's going to be a good time. For those who don't know, just a quick shout out at the top of the show. Halo is running a Rifts game, which I participate in, and I am very excited about it. We're going to have our second game tomorrow night. Should be a good time. So go check out Halo's channel, watch the stream, watch us all play Rifts. If you don't know what Rifts is, you will. You will if you come watch it. It's myself and CJ and Jupes, and it's a good time. So check it out. Anyways, Tom, what about you? How are you doing
Vince,
tonight?
Vince, look what you just did. You stole my pick of the week. That was my pick of the week this week. Was you all's live stream show? That's all I'm
Well,
saying.
there you go.
I was watching some riffs.
I mean, that's fine. That's fine. You can use it again later. Not everybody who would be here right at the top of the show, so you can use it later. All right. Fantastic. Today we're going to be talking about tier lists, but not just any tier list. We're not just doing the boring basic S, A, B, C, D, E, F. No, no. That's not how we're going to do it around here. I've got count them, three different tier lists we're going to do. We're going to break them up. Tom is very excited about this, I'm sure. And we're going to do our own unique flavor of this.
See, Vince, here's the deal. This is what I think happened here. I think you're like, Tom and I have done like 4 to 6 hour shows the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
We can't just do a normal like 1 to 2 hour show. We gotta pack in another 4 hour run. Is that what this is?
This won't be 4 hours. It'll be meaty, but it's not going to be that long.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll see. I guess we'll find out. Tell us how we did in the comments if you're watching this later. If you're watching this in the future, then you'll know.
Narrator, it was 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into the news.
Yeah, rumor engine.
Indeed, we're back to the normal setup, everybody. We're done. We're through the indexes, thank God. Yeah, it's a basket of skulls. Very, very white skulls, but it's a basket of skulls. Like, they're clearly very bright.
And we're back.
Yeah.
The skulls. Like, we're back to skulls and random rumor engines.
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing. I don't know. It's a basket of skulls. What do you want?
I don't know. I agree with you. It is very, very, very bright. It is super curious. It actually reminds me of, and it's not this, so I want to just acknowledge that, but it reminds me of, I've been building our good old Cruel Boys.
Sure.
And they have these like little cages like hanging off of everything, like
sure,
lots
on the back
of
Derek and generic Derek. Yeah.
Yep, indeed. And it just, like, looking at how this cage is constructed, I was like, this looks somewhat familiar, like the back sides of those cages. I don't think it is, but kind of looks like that.
Okay. I have no idea, and I have no reasonable guess. I don't know. It's a basket of skulls. Could be literally anything Warhammer. So there you go. All right. Speaking of things we don't know what they'll be, though, let's move to a thing we do know with the next news item, which I am very excited about.
Yeah. Saturday noon preview show.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think probably, Tom, I'm going to have to interrupt you midday. You better clear your Saturday afternoon schedule. I'm just saying.
I'm playing an RTT this weekend with my Cruel Boys. I will literally be in a match.
Well,
I will literally be in a match. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll just do commentary of it from the table. I'll be in the middle of, or I'll be starting game 2. Sure, I'm in. Let's do this.
Yeah. We'll see what we do. But I mean, look, here's why I'm really excited. The whole point of this little Hell Crown showdown was who's going to be revealed first, right? Like, we know Stormcast and Skaven are getting a refresh. And so, like, the question was who's going to get revealed first. And last I saw, they shared the stats. Skaven were winning 2-1. Okay, it was like 64% to 36. I don't think that got tipped back the other way in the last, like, week and a half since they shared out the stats. So they're, like, at this point, we're locked in. You know what I mean? Like, they have to prepare all this stuff in advance, right?
Yeah.
So So logic says it's Skaven. It's not like they were waiting up until the last minute and tallying the votes, right? And then ABC News vote count desk is reporting in that Maricopa County went for Skaven, and so it's your new reveal. Like, it's not like that, right?
Right. Right.
Like, it's Skaven. That's what we're gonna see, and so I am hence super jazzed because I want to see the rest of the rats. Like, the box is good. Still working my way through the box. I got plenty to paint in the box still. It's a very slow process. But give me them rats. Give me them rats. Okay, let's go.
I got an email.
Go.
This is somewhat related to that. I got an email today about Holy Wars, and I was
sure.
like, "Oh, well, if we're teaming up, like, we need to figure out what we're doing. And am I just painting rats? Like, is that the answer? Are you going to be painting
My
rats?
answer is you can do whatever you want, but I'm gonna be painting rats for the next like 6 to 8 months. So I mean, it's whatever, man.
Yeah, I figured that's what that was. That checks
Yeah.
out.
I mean, all AoS, all non-display model painting, I will do for the next like this year at least, minimum. Right? Will just be Skaven for sure, for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah. So like, and it'll be hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of work, and that's fine. No big deal. So I'm very excited about it. I love painting these things. We'll talk about it in just a moment. But anyways, yeah. So I mean, and I think that's all our news, right? It was a quiet week, I think, leading up to this, obviously, but the big preview show will herald in a lot of news. Hopefully, we'll hear something about the book as well. Like, when are the books coming? That's the big question. When do we get the Stormcast and Skaven books? We know those will be the first two battle tomes, so we'll see what that looks like.
Normally we can expect that on like September, right?
Yeah,
like normally delivery of that stuff shows up around September.
Yep, I would assume so. Okay. Ben Stafford says he saw on the latest stats that Bone Splitters had more games played than KO in GTs last weekend. Oh boy, I don't know about that, but that's unfortunate. All right, cool, very good. Any other news, Tom? You are muted now. That's all right. Or you stop talking for a minute. Talk louder or talk more clear or something. I don't know. Talk for a second. Nope, you muted yourself. My guess is on your headset or something, or you hit a button somewhere because you're not muted in there, but it's not picking up your voice. Oh, something went green for a second. With that, let's go to some pick of the week while Tom figures out his sound. Nope.
Are you sure?
Now I can hear you. There you
go. Okay, well then let's just stick with that.
Okay. Cool. Let's do some pick of the week, shall we? All right, Tom. Well, since I ruined your earlier pick, what do you want to share with everybody?
No, you ruined it. Like, you just took all of my steam away. I was gonna.
Why don't you re-explain, since like another couple hundred people joined or whatever since you watched?
Oh yeah.
Since they.
So Vince, I'm gonna spruik a live stream that you're on, particularly like a live play for Riffs, on Haywo's Twitch, and you all should check it out. If you don't know what Riffs is one of my favorite games that I never play. It's like if D&D and all of the cartoons that you used to watch in the 80s had a baby.
Okay, sure, that's fair. For my pick of the week, we're going to go over to Stuart, the Iron Gutsman himself, who did a little live react, or not live, I don't know what to say, but he did a review, react something, of the Ogre Maw Tribes faction pack, obviously. As you might know, with a name like Iron Gutsman, he is a big Ogre fan, and it was a really good episode, so check it out. I will link all of that down below. You can watch episode 1 of the live play and the Iron Gutsman's review while you're waiting for the live play tomorrow. What is Rifts? Rifts is a role-playing game. It is everything you can imagine. It is every genre put into a blender on future recovering post-apocalyptic Earth, shredded into one thing. It's insanity. It is rules on rules on rules. None of it works, but it's the most fun thing ever. You are quiet again, Tom. I'll fix you up here. Why are you quiet?
That is the weirdest thing.
Turn yourself up some. or I'll turn you up. I turned you up some, but turn yourself up more first.
Okay. Let me find the settings for that.
Hey, that's awesome, Carl. I'm glad to hear that we got you. We got you in. You're one of us now. You're part of the cult. Welcome, Carl. We're glad to have you. I saw a comment earlier about the painting videos helping. That's really wonderful to hear. I really do appreciate that very much. Okay. All right. So.
Is that any better?
I think you're better. Yeah, you sounded louder to me. Okay. Hopefully it is for everybody else. Somebody in the chat can tell me if Tom's still quiet. Okay. Yeah, probably CW. It sounded like his microphone switched over because his voice is less tinny now. But this is the better microphone you should have been using. But Tom, despite doing this for 10 years, refuses to actually set up any kind of sound or do anything for his system that would make him actually have good sound in any way.
That is patently untrue. I literally have a Yeti mic right there that just doesn't work. So I bought one and I set it up and used it for years, and it doesn't seem to be better than the microphone on my camera. So I use that now. Thank you very much.
The microphone on your camera. Good night.
Yep.
Tom,
Yep.
I can make microphone recommendations to you, okay? As well
I
as
have a Yeti Black right here.
as well as
It just doesn't work.
Great.
But
as well as
you
like
always say
simple
the audio
sound
is not as
codecs
good.
for you.
That's
At any
fine.
rate. Okay.
I mean, I don't get paid for this. It's fine.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So, okay, let's do some hobby time. All right. What have you been working on, Tom?
Well, funny story.
Oh.
The first half of the week was posting my pile of Heil shame on eBay.
Yep.
Like 150 auctions later, and that's done. And then now I am finishing up building Cruel Boys for this weekend. I'm going to take them out on a maiden run on an RTT, as mentioned, this Saturday. We got a new venue, and I'm excited to see kind of our local club launch. So it'll be good. I mean, we're continuing. It's just we've moved venues, and I'm excited about the new thing. So I'm going to be there, and it'll be fun.
Playing them Cruel Boys. You need to bring them stats up, pump those numbers up. Cruel Boys are looking too low, but that's not surprising to me because they have a very high skill floor. So even though they're an incredibly strong army,
they're not a strong army. Clearly, the stats say that they're a weak army, and so
that's what it is.
So they don't need adjusted or fixed at all in that next patch in a couple of weeks.
Well, we'll see that when we get to the tier list. Okay,
they're fine.
Yeah. My hobby time. I finally. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom.
I was say, in other news, I hear that Sean Clark is bringing Cruel Boys to NashCon next week.
Sure, I'm sure he is. Jared says he's checking out your high elves right now. Yeah, absolutely. Tom, do you want me to include a link to your auctions down below? Do you have like a link that's all your auctions?
I mean, I don't know that I want to use the channel that way. So
I mean, you're selling off old high elf stuff. If people want your old high elf stuff, let's make it easier for them to get it. Okay,
that's fine. Yes,
we're not pushing it on anybody. This is a consensual exchange.
That's fine. Yes, you can include it in the link below. Otherwise, I posted them on my Twitter a couple days back.
There you go.
And so you could look there as well.
Cool. I finally got to return to this guy, to the Warp Blaster. I had to set him aside for a while because I had to work on stuff for Gen Con.
That red is way too bright. Is that your base?
No, it's super bright. That's the whole point. Yeah, it's like, believe me, man, it'll punch you in the face here in real life. It's crazy how intense it is. I have worked very hard to like hypercharge this red.
It's so red.
It is the reddest red. Yeah, I mean, obviously this light's going to distort it some, but yeah. So now he's done except for the weathering. So that's the final step, and there'll be videos out of this guy and such. But yeah, I had to set him aside to like work on a video and then do a bunch of stuff to get my pieces ready for Gen Con and then prep all the figs for Gen Con and so on and so forth. So I haven't gotten to like actually paint on my Skaven for a while until I got back here Monday from Gen Con. So awesome, Natalie. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah. Is it Rogue Hobbies Red? No, actually. It is a... you'll see, I think the video coming actually this week, I think was the first one I recorded on him like forever ago. But so I'm happy to talk about it just very quickly. So the base of it is burnt red from Pro Acryl, and then it's a little bit of this Atom Big Child red, the red that I reviewed in the video this week. If you want to learn about these Atom paints, go check out that video. Then we use some pastel peach in the highlight areas. Then we lay down some golden fluorescent orange over that peach and some of the others, and then we go back with glazes of the original red to get the full pop. Some of the shadows then glazed with tenebrous gray black. So those are kind of
seems like way too much work.
It was the appropriate amount of work for an army. And you are correct. John stands no chance. Yes, his slap-a-dash, put a bunch of colors on is like real cute in an Instagram post, but the man does not have the endurance. That's the issue. Okay. I know I'm the tortoise in this fight, and I don't care because I know who wins that race in the end. It was not
John,
the hare.
I got you. I see you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the best way to do an army is? To get it done. And so I see you, John.
It'll just take time. Well, he ain't gonna get it done either. From what I listened on the podcast, he was trying to throw shade my way when he hadn't even been painting. He's like, it's so hard to paint and make videos. Oh, this is my whole job. Yeah, okay, John. At any rate, okay. So that's my hobby time. He'll be finished up soon, and then I get to go to the next one. The next up on my desk is the engineer, which I am real excited about. The engineer that no one liked. That's actually a really great fig in person. He's so good in person. As usual, the picture's just so nothing weird there. All right. With that, Tom, let's turn to our main topic, shall we?
Yeah, let's do some tier listing.
Let's do some tier listing. I'm here for it. All right. And I think our audience is too. Okay. So AoS Index tier list. So we're going to do 3 different tier lists tonight. Settle in, folks. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. We're going to have 3 different tier lists tonight. We're going to start with the most boring classic rote tier list, the one you would expect. We're going to rank them based on sort of power. And then we'll go from there. Some of these will be a little different. Okay. So, Tom, before we get into anything specific, before we get to the actual tier list themselves, what's your perception of, like, quote unquote the meta right now, early as it is, right?
Yeah. My understanding right now is that Nighthaunt is broken AF.
Just busted sideways, yes.
Just busted sideways. That there are some other outstanding performances. I saw Rob had some comments about like Daughters of Cain and a handful of other standouts that were seemingly performing very well in early events. Again, I don't know how much we can kind of take that to heart. Yeah. So I think that some of it, from my understanding, is as to be expected. So stuff like Nighthaunt, stuff like Lumineth are performing very well. Others are not.
Yeah, like my general feeling on the thing is right now the meta breaks down into sort of 2 broad categories. Okay.
The haves and have-nots.
Yes, effectively. Yeah, no, you're right. But I want to specifically unpack that, okay? Mm-hmm. So the haves are the people who can effectively break rules and or cheat in some beneficial way, for the most part. And what we'll see over time is as people unlock the edition is that those armies will raise to the top because they have the ability to both. There are multiple armies that have the ability to cheat in really beneficial ways where they can like actually deny their opponent's points at the same time it's making them very easy to get points, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Oh yes, hey whoa, the Chads and the Chad Knots. There you go. That's the way it is. And then there's other armies where they just play Warhammer, and like just playing Warhammer isn't good enough anymore. Okay, right. Unless you play Warhammer in such a way that like your very basic battle strategy is nearly unbeatable beyond very specific lists. That's
unless
only one Warhammer, army, by the way.
Unless you Warhammer harder than any other army Warhammer.
Yeah, that's only one army, by the way. That's Sons of Babylon can play that because they're like the combat army. That's just a giant pile of DPS check that most people just can't burn down fast enough to actually beat in most scenarios. Like they walk into most tournaments being 3-2, right? And that's it. Like they at the same time, it's very hard for them to go 5-0.
Right.
They're
They
just
live
a
3-2
army. Yeah.
Yeah, they're here to roll some dice and watch people cry.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they get to cry their way home.
And I think there's a lot of other things like that what I mean by rule cheating that break down to that. High recursion amounts versus armies that have no recursion, right? So stuff like that factors into it. How well can you play with endless spells or manifestations or whatever, all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that all is kind of contributing to the overall soup of what's happening here.
You know who can't? KO.
I mean, KO is such an interesting conundrum, right? Yeah.
They're just playing a different game. I don't think that they've been designed for the new world that we live in.
Sure. No, you're right, MacTac. To some degree, S2D would be the other army in there with Sons that just like plays really strong normal Warhammer. They're just really good at it, right? Like whether it's Archeon and Varangard or Varangard and Varangard or Be'lakor and Varangard. Yeah.
I'm noticing
or Abraxia and Varangard. I don't know. Like there seems to be a theme. Okay. So at any rate, that's kind of my overall take on the meta now. And my other read is like the stats really don't matter very much at this point. A lot of people who are in the middle will shuffle up. A lot of people who are in the middle will shuffle down as people like unlock how to actually play these armies, because there is a very real skill floor difference between the armies. Like some armies have a massively high skill floor and some armies are just like near brainless to do what they want to do. Right. So S2D is a good example of that. Like almost any of those Varangard lists we talked about, you don't have to think. Like not really. You just go smash people. Right. Same with Sons of Bahamut and so on and so forth. If you're playing Cruel Boys, you got it. Like you have a very powerful set of tools on your hand, but you got to use them exactly right. Right. And if you do, you're like very hard to beat. Right. So anyways, okay. Tier list number 1. Here we go. We got 3 tiers here, Tom. Okay, that's it. We got 3 tiers. This is the quality matrix. So this is how good, how powerful the index is. Okay, I should say it's like that. The power the power rating. Okay, so we got 3 tiers here, Tom. We got Nerf incoming is our top tier.
Sure.
Okay. We got fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Where's the S through F rating? That's
none
not
of that crap.
One.
It's not what we're doing. No, we're not doing
I thought you said that's what we're starting with. Okay.
No, I said that's what we're not doing. You got to listen to the words.
Nope.
This is our version of that. Nerf incoming, fine, and then the lowest category, it's rough, kid. Okay? That's your 3. That's your 3 levels. I thought about calling the bottom one Chinatown, but I didn't think anybody would get that reference. Just calling it Chinatown. It's just like it sucks, and that's just the way it is. Okay. All right. So let's go through this. Here we go, Tom. We're gonna start grabbing. I'm gonna start grabbing some armies from over here on the side, and we're gonna drop them in. Let's start with our old friends, the Tree People, the Sylvaneth. They're right up here first.
They are what I would consider on the top end of it's rough, kid, to the lower end of fine.
Yeah, I agree. They're somewhere like right here. If they're breaching fine, it's barely. Like they're mostly down in its rough, kid. They're like I mean I've played against Sylvaneth and found them like multiple times now. Yeah. And they gave really good game, but I'm playing other average quality armies, right? Like I'm not playing Disciples against them or Nighthaunt or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's what I would say. I mean, I still think there's gas in Sylvaneth, but I think for most players, when they encounter that tome and they play it the way they want to play it, it's not going to perform how they want. That said, I think that it could give some good games, and I think it could very easily have positive numbers, right? But I don't think that when most people encounter that fact that battle tome, the way they want to play it, I don't think that it's going to play. It's not going to give the games that they want.
Yeah. I think that's right. I mean, they have a lot of headwind. The woods are tough to get set up. You know, it can often be unbound. At least that's what people tell me. I unbound officially 0 woods in the game I was playing against Sylvaneth. That dude was popping trees everywhere he wanted. It was not an issue. You know, like just woods everywhere, just pooping trees. And you know, Alariel's very strong. The other tree lady is very strong. Yeah, Lady of Vines. Thank you. I couldn't think of her name. You know, I was actually super impressed with Alariel in the game.
Belthanos.
Belthanos is very strong. Yes.
I know that a lot of people really don't like Sylvaneth. I think that there is some competitive bliss there. It's just not an army I want to paint up.
But overall,
because I just did one.
It's a rough kid. There you go. Okay. Next up, Sons of Behemoth. Where are you putting these guys, Tom? Where are you putting the Sons?
I mean, I would say they're fine edging into Nerf coming.
I'm gonna drop them firmly into Nerf incoming territory. Let me just say.
You really think so?
Yeah.
Just because are they too tough?
They're too strong at this point. Like it's way too easy to build. Like I agree they're teetering on fine, but they're a little more in than like Sylvaneth. But for the most part, they're like it's a very strong play pattern. It's very hard to beat. They dominate in the combat phase, and they just have like the simplest, strongest game. It's called just like win objectives hard.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Hit things hard, win objectives hard. Yeah.
Yeah, like in a lot of maps, you can make them go first, which is they're 2-drop by default, by the way. That's another thing. But even if they lose that roll and go first, they can just do okay, I'll take the center of the board. Like if there's an objective there, it's even better. Usually they can take the center and still actually be holding a nearby objective.
And they're like, "Oh, do you want to come charge me? Please,
yeah, come charge
come into multiple giants." Yes,
exactly. Yeah, come into my multiple mega gargants. Like, who cares?
Yeah,
who cares?
Yeah.
Right, like they can move up strong, so like it's just very easy for them to complete those kinds of things. All right, cool. Next up, we've got S2D, Slaves to Darkness.
I mean, I think as an army, they are probably Nerf incoming, but probably just Vanguard. Like as you said, it's everything plus Vanguard. Like when you begin to list out how that army is performing.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this right now. I think they're on the top end of fine, but I think they're fine.
Sure. Okay.
Like, because the reality is, yes, I do think you're right. I think, like, Vanguard will go up some points or something. But I think you'll see a lot of other things go down points. Like, net, the army will probably benefit from it. I think, you know... And by the way, I think there's whole swaths of the army that will actually unlock once Vanguard become less
less efficient.
Less efficient. You know, I think you'll see more Chosen, more Knights, and I think you'll see a whole Marauder play come up. I think there's like a very strong Marauder focused build in the army that's just not being explored right now, and I think you'll see that come into exploration as well.
I agree with that. I mean, what I would add to that is that, you know, I saw somebody else make a joke about like S2D is the new Iron Jaws, and there's a lot of truth to it. Like they just play normal, fair Warhammer, right?
100%.
Like, and they do it well, and they have the tools to do it well. They don't have a lot of the super cheaty things, but they have enough that it keeps them in the game.
Yeah, I mean, yes, S2D is just good Iron Jaws now. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when everybody gets 3-ups.
Yeah, it's weird. All right, Seraphon, where are the lizards going? The lizard wizards.
I think I don't know what army you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'll answer. They're fine. They're fine. I think they're honestly like dead in the middle of fine. Like they lost a lot of their big, annoying, dumb, spammy crap. They can still do some things. They're relatively expensive. They have some decent tools, but they're fine. They're like a good pilot can do a lot with them. They're well in the green. That's it. I mean, that's what they are. I think this is one of the better Seraphon takes we've gotten. They're no longer a complex nightmare of like stacking weird indistinguishable rules. They have tricks. But the lizard wizards, maybe they're like slightly up here, but for the most part, they're good. There you go. Okay. Next up, Stormcast. Where are you putting the Golden Boys? Now, obviously, this is the shortest prediction ever because, like, again, in a month they'll have a book or something probably. But...
Yeah, I would put them on the low end of nerf incoming, and the reason why is I do. And the reason why, again, I know this is controversial, but I think that they have their list building is a nightmare for Stormcast.
Sure.
But I think that they still have the tools that they need to perform. But again, I don't think it's how people want to play the army. Because there's a difference between like how people expect to play the army and how the army should be played. I think it's good enough to be top tier. Now that said, I know that a lot of people don't agree with me.
Well, one of those people is here in this podcast with you because I am going to say they are in It's Rough Kid. I really do.
Do you really think so?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I think it's very rough for them. I think the list building is a nightmare. I don't think they have any pieces that are actually impressive. They're not cheating in any relevant ways. Their best abilities are to do some like save stacking stuff that all the good armies just like obliterate. They either like don't have the movement with certain units, or the ones they do, they overpay for drastically. Like I think the Sacrosanct is probably the best stuff, and that's going away.
Well, I agree with that, but it's still legal right now.
I understand.
And this is what I'm saying. Like, I think the best. I think they have the tools there. It may not be sticking around for more than a year, but I think they have the tools.
Yeah.
So
how about we'll tell you what, we'll meet in the middle. We'll call them fine for now. Again, understanding that it's like the shortest term prediction ever. Who cares?
Correct.
It's
Correct.
Like these rules will all go away in some way, and things will be changed potentially in a month. So,
of course, like we just don't know what they're doing. Is the answer.
I just haven't seen any Stormcast list that I thought, yeah, that's going to beat Night Hunt, or that's going to beat X or Y or Z, right? Like they're not hunting the top of the meta. Personal take, and they're not cheating in any really really interesting ways. Mm-hmm. I love that, like, the chat, by the way, looking at the chat is like
super divided.
It's where they're in the same position we are. There's some people here that are like they have 2 or 3 good units and the rest is crap, and there's some people that's like their damage is amazing, they're so good. It's yeah, the Sacrosanct supplement's out for a year. Yeah, it's good for one full year.
You only need 2 or 3 good units to make an army. That's all I'm saying.
I guess. All right. Soulblight Gravelords.
Oof. I mean, I think that they're better off than OBR.
Okay. So where are you saying? We haven't done OBR yet. So what does that mean?
Know. I would say that they are mid fine is what I would say.
I would put them slightly above that. In my mind, SBG is like top of fine, and it's just gonna kiss.
How are you like? I hear that. Like, and
it's
they do
have kiss nerf incoming. Like they won't get nerfed in the first 2 passes. It'll happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think they're that good, but but they do have some things that inherently break the rules. But they've also had those things for forever. Like the setting up units in the other movement phase and yada.
I don't know if we're going to call the last 3 years forever. Is that what we're going to call that?
It feels like it. It feels like they've had that forever.
Well, on one hand, truth. On the other hand, yeah, come on, man. Like, no, they didn't need to have that off-turn setup units. It's still Garbo. But, like, they do have multiple paths and interesting units. They're a very deep book with a lot of different options. Obviously, I think a small nerf will happen where Torgilius will get fixed. I think he's like way too good for a bonus hero out of the gate. But I think for the most part, they're going to live in fine for a while and probably won't be touched too heavily.
Yeah.
Maybe like a little bit of points here, a little bit of points there. Like for the most part, I think any soon changes would be, or anything soon would be like minimal around the edges. Like for a couple of units or a couple of builds. For the most part, they'll live out their tome or their index. Pretty normal.
Sure.
Okay. Now OBR. Tell me about you. You just disparaged OBR, so tell me about where you think they
Yeah,
are.
I mean, what I would say is this: I think that OBR plays fair Warhammer,
Okay.
and that's not going to get them very far in this edition.
Okay.
Like I think that they have, like they want to do your rank and flank, they want to do your bodies. They have a couple neat tools, but then like they just don't have the kind of damage that I want to see. Like they don't have the really really hard hitting hammer units. Um,
Okay.
that that I think that you need. I don't know.
So where are you placing them? Are you saying it's rough kid?
I would actually have them bridging between its rough kid and fine, because in some of their builds, I think that they have enough tools. In other builds, they're severely lacking, is what I would say.
Okay. I completely agree with you. I think they're like boop, like right there, just kissing right into its rough kid. There's and like there's just certain things that just don't really work in that book. All right. Nurgle. They're French now. What do you think about Nurgle?
I'm thinking through. I think it's not as good as Zinch.
That is an understatement. As one of those is going to go into a very particular category. Okay. I mean, I'm going to tell you straight up. It's rough, kid. I think Nurgle is in a terrible spot. Terrible. Okay. I don't know what these guys do to win games. Straight up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think that there's a number of things in Nurgle that I think some of these armies that were heavily reliant on like hero builds have been disproportionately hit, and I think Nurgle was one of them. Nurgle used to be quite heavy in the hero build space, and it just doesn't do attrition like it used to.
I mean, it doesn't do attrition like it used to, and attrition's a bad strategy anyways in the current world. Like a lot of armies have plenty of recursion. Doing some splash mortal wounds to thing is not getting you across the line, right?
Yeah.
And like they have some objective control manipulation, but not enough. If they were like heavy if their premise of Nurgle was you kind of don't do damage other than a little bit of that, then you know, other than like your disease or a little bit of attrition or a little bit of your weak weapons, your weak sauce weapons, right? Fine. Like if they had like massive objective control buffs, then great. You know. But I think that for the most part, that's where they sit. To answer your question, is this off of vibes or results so far? I'm going to call it 25% results so far. Like I have looked at all the stats that have been out there and published. Like there's there, but the stats are so noisy and small right now. It's not a lot to go off of. So this is just 75%.
Right.
Vibe. You know, vibes and our understanding of the game. And I've played a lot of the armies or against a lot of the armies so far. So
as Vince has kind of alluded to, like Cruel Boys, their numbers are not as stellar as they could be.
Yeah.
And like I think both of us would rank them higher than what the actual performance that they're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Nurgle is definitely deep in its rough kid area, and I don't know what to do with them. Like their strategy is just not correct in the current edition. It's misaligned, and I think sometimes they do this. They're just like they design a book and they sort of design the top-down thing of it, and they make those adjustments as though it just sort of exists on its own and not part of the context of the larger game, right? And like you have to understand what you're doing with an edition. What's the ecosystem you're throwing this stuff into?
And I think I'd like to add on to that. I think that they probably got hit disproportionately hard by the lack of summoning.
Sure. I mean,
because
yes, but also and right? Like you don't stop there. But yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah. Like I think that was more instrumental to their like grindy endurance plan.
Yeah.
Than I think what we've been willing to acknowledge, or at least the developers have really been able to latch onto.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, they just don't do that well anymore.
All right. Next up, it's Night Haunt. It goes at the top of nerf incoming. The bat is going to swing hard. It's going to swing multiple times. It'll swing the first time, and it won't be strong enough. Like, the easy first hit will be the sub-faction. That's just what'll happen. It's so obviously busted sideways. It's so obviously beyond the pale. It's the best sub-faction in the game. It's going to get clipped like it's Nancy Kerrigan about to skate in the Olympics. It's going to get whacked so hard, right?
And like a couple units will get hit by points, and it'll
Right.
be like, "Oh, are you done?"
Right.
And then it's going to show back up at the top of the charts again.
Exactly. It'll still do really strong, and then it'll get hit a second time. It'll probably take like 2-3 nerfs to actually get this army banged back into shape, because it's so broken in so many ways. Like, it's just so strong. Again, it's the opposite of Nurgle. Everything it wants to do is really strong in
there's
their
not
current
a pin,
meta.
to use like magic balancing language. There's not a single piece of its combo that you can nerf or ban or jack up the points on, or whatever, however you want to look at balancing, that will break the synergies that are there. And so it is going to take some surgery to get in there and to dial things back in a way that makes the army still playable, but not just dominating in the meta.
Yep. Cody, which hurt Vince more, Night Haunt or shelving my Slanesh in 2nd edition? Night Haunt. They're a nightmare to play against. I played so many games against Night Haunt. It's the worst. All I do is sit there the whole time and I hear King Theoden in my head of like, what can men do against such reckless hate? Like, it's just, it's awful. It's an awful experience. Awful.
A personal story. So I was going to go to NashCon next week, and like I was completely lined up to take Night Haunt. Like I was like, I'm going to ride this wave. It'll be great. Take home some hardware. The beginning of the tournament, and just abuse this sideways. And I had some personal stuff come up, and never once have I ever felt like a sense of relief of not going to an event and like just having to abuse people for 2 days with something that is just broken sideways.
But the most offensive thing to me about Night Haunt is the charging when you're in combat. That's actually the most offensive thing to me.
Sure, I believe that.
Okay.
I believe that.
And the justification is like her ghosts, so they can just leave.
Yeah.
That is not a justification. That's insanity. Okay? By that justification,
they fly through you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, great. By that justification, most things could just walk out of combat. Like BCR should just walk out of combat then. They don't care. Why would the monster truck care? It's a 20-foot tall war mammoth with an 8-foot tall 700-pound muscle machine on the back of it. What does the 5 little dorks hanging onto the bottom of it matter to it? It doesn't. Okay? Like, it should just walk out of combat all the same. Like, Archeon can't just fly out. You got 5 spearmen in combat with Archeon. He's like, oh, I'm locked up. There's nothing I can do. Okay, but Ghosts can just leave. Get out of here. Get out of here with that logic. Okay, that fails first past the post. That is just immediately dead on arrival.
They're incorporeal.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Incorporeal, sorry.
Anyways, I hate it. Okay. So, it's really strong, Cody. It's really strong. Yes, does it win every match? Does it have a 100% win rate? No, of course not. That's insane. But, like, it is definitely the strongest army right now, and it will get smacked hard.
And it's just, the key is it just gives people bad games.
Yes. It breaks every rule. So, anyways, let's go to the next one. Let's talk about the Blades of Corn.
I think they're strong.
Living there.
I think they're strong. I think that they still have the tech that's needed. I don't know that they're like they're not up there with Night Haunt, but
no.
They're pretty good.
It's so funny too, because like from some of the stats we have seen, they're one of the worst performing armies. Okay.
Which I don't understand. Truly, I don't understand.
I do. I very much do. One, I think they are a bit overcosted. Okay, like I do think they have like their points are a bit too high. Second, I think they're a very high skill floor army, like very high to play them correctly. Okay. So like honestly right now, I agree with you. I think potentiality, they're actually one of the like 5 strongest armies in the game right now. But but I don't think you're going to see that. I'm going to place them down here touching its rough kid because I think what's going to happen is they're going to get buffs. Like I think they will be in line for buffs. Because I think the skill floor issue,
mind-boggling to me.
I understand.
Which is mind-boggling to me.
I gotcha. I agree completely. But what's going to happen is, I mean, they do have some. They have some headwinds we need to be admitted of. Like it's really hard to build lists with them, right?
Yeah.
Because the way that they have like the most restrictive build pattern of any of the Chaos Gods for sort of no reason.
Sure.
But like they have such a strong set of tools, such a strong set of scrolls, such a strong set of abilities. It's just at the same time there's so much potential there. I really think what's going to happen is they're going to get knocked down some points and just shoot up. And then we'll have to bring them back down again and it'll bounce somewhere in the middle. Like I think they will rubber band. And I think it'll mostly be the sub. I think it's mostly a skill floor issue that'll come to pass.
They do have manifestations to be clear. Leviticus.
Yeah, they have their corn prayer manifestations.
They have their corn prayer stuff. They don't have wizards, and that's okay because it's an anti-wizard army. And so people can have manifestations all they want. They have the tools to deal with that.
Yeah, maybe they're a little higher. I could see that. I just like touching it, but that my point is they're right on that kind of borderland somewhere in there. All right.
Which is insanity to me, but that's fine.
Sure. IDK.
I think they're good. I think they're stealth good.
I tell you what I think. Whoop! Down here you go. Get into the murky deeps. We're back where you belong, IDK. It's rough, kid. It's rough playing IDK.
You really? I don't know. I know Dino's had some success with them.
Dino's one of the best players of that army, probably on like the European continent. So sure.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
like,
he's had success with it.
A note about this that should be stated. In 4.0, skill matters so much more than it has in any previous edition. Like this is worth mentioning at this point. So when I'm picturing this, we're talking about like an average information player, right, who plays an average number of games. The reality is a high skill player could take basically anything in this list and probably go 4-1. Okay? Because until they run into somebody who's high skilled and has just a better army, right? Like that's what's going to happen. They're going to lose in that round. But the reality of the thing is they like skill just matters so much to your outcomes. Like so much more than before. Once you actually see how to play this game and how different it is, you're going to make just a ton of different choices, and it will be very impactful on the overall play state of the game. Okay. Anyways, so back to this. Dino's obviously an incredibly good player. That's not anything we base IDK on. IDK in itself, again, they don't have the tools. They're very costly. I like the cool Storm Eidolon build. I think it's actually a neat build. I came back around on him. I made the wrong call with him. But despite that like having one trick unit does not get you to a winning army. It's rough, kid. The Hobby Attic, would the rankings change when comparing spearhead boxes? Yeah, 100%. I mean,
yes.
basically they would almost all go into fine. Spearhead's actually a pretty amazingly well balanced, I will say. Like they clearly put a ton of playtesting into it.
Yeah. I haven't had a bad matchup yet.
Right.
Even when I got into my son's Warp Lightning Cannon at the top of 1 with IDK, right? And it was still a good game between the two of us. Like it still wasn't a runaway, even though he took a hard hit at the very beginning.
Sure.
Like.
All right. Next up, a controversial one, Tom. Gloom Spite Gits. Them Git boys. What's your feeling here?
They're bad.
I know what my answer is, but I want to let you go first.
They're bad. If you're not trolls, they're bad. If you're trolls,
There it is.
it's fine.
There it is. Yep. There it
If
is.
you're trolls, it's fine.
Okay, here's the first time we're going to have to do this. This is going to happen to a lot of the destruction tomes. We got to spawn a second one of this. If you're not playing trolls, okay, then they're like down here in its rough kid. They are in the trash. Okay.
Yep.
If you're playing trolls, nerf incoming 50-50 with fine. Like it's happening. You're going to get clocked in the face. Okay.
Yep.
That is simply the reality of this book. It is a tale of two cities.
Yep.
That is what's going on. Yeah, exactly. Halo said internal balance 0 out of 10, trolls 6 out of 10. Yeah, like the trolls are going to catch some kind of nerf. They just will.
Yeah.
They're a very hard thing to play against. Why are trolls so good? Sure, because they heal like crazy with a higher health characteristic, and most armies just unless you're playing like a crazy hammer force, cannot remove them faster than they can heal up.
And they can play the attrition war.
That's right.
Like
they do enough damage to hold. Like Trug is good in the build. Everything fits exactly the way you'd want it. Like you get plenty of units. They're pointed correctly. Your army's very hard to remove, and you hit perfectly hard back. Like you absolutely remove things on the crackback.
Yeah. So you remove things on the crackback. Oh, and you get some of your stuff back.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So like yeah, and by the way, this is going to be this is not going to be the only time this happens with a destruction faction.
Weird.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I agree. Cygnus said they're a better Nurgle than Nurgle. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Just paint those trolls up Nurgly like, and you're good.
Yep. Disciples. D-O-T. Bring in the Zinch, the changer of the ways or whatever.
You can send them on up to nerf incoming.
Yep, let's travel right on up here.
Yep.
Travel right on.
They're just gonna hold on to the coattails of Nighthaunt.
They're trying. Yeah, I mean, like, Disciples of Zinch is really strong. I think there are parts of the book that are perfectly fine. I think probably, like, pinks, blues, the casters, a lot of stuff like that. Maybe some of the Zangor stuff is slightly out of the box. Maybe some. But, I mean, I think Zinch is another just Iron Jaws but more fun army if you play it that way. Like, if you just play the Zangor heavy list, right? If you just, like, big blocks of Zangor and Skyfires and stuff and Enlightened on disc, you're playing, like, Iron Jaws but good. That's what you end up with. Like, Iron Jaws with good rules. Right.
It looks so fun.
Or you can play like the caster manifestation build, and then you're just running around with Morbid, just like going ham with things everywhere. The Cygnus says Screamer and Discourse spam. That's what I have. I mean, Screamers are fine as like a single unit of them to be a battle tactic, but you wouldn't take more than that. If you listen to our Zinch, we're the worst army in the game. Well, that's how everybody usually talks, but they are wrong. Zinch is strong. Okay, so yeah. Now again, they're not like Nighthawk busted or something. There's actually like more internal balance in this book, but they're strong. They're strong. Okay.
Oh, don't worry, MacTac. We'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, well, the I don't have anything to rank those, but I mean, like, here's the simple tier ranking of the manifestations. Ready? Morbid and Primal, nerf incoming. Everything else, fine. Done. There, I did it.
I would say that, but that's fine.
I mean, there's a couple that are probably down in its rough kid, but, for the most part, fine. Okay. Well, I want to do a whole manifestation focus show in the future, but I want to collect some information from people first. Like, I want to know how people actually feel about manifestations. In fact, let's just do a little quick hit right now.
Sure.
On a scale of, like, let's just do love them, neutral, hate them. So, love them, neutral, hate them. Hello, audience. How do you feel about manifestations in 4.0? Okay. All right. While they're putting in their answers, Tom, Let's talk about Daughters of Cain. Daughters of Cain. Could there be a more fine army right now? Could it
No.
hug more into fine?
It feels like it's doing what it needs to, and it has a little bit of cheat.
Yeah. It's fine. Like, there you go. Okay. Yeah. Easy.
Some
I mean, like,
people-
that's it. That's the daughter's conversation.
Some people did not listen to the rules.
I mean, daughters are like, fine. No, it's okay. I get the emotion nonetheless. Okay. All right. This is good. This is good. Boy. I'm searching for the love them. I'm looking for it.
I like them.
Mhm.
I love them. I've wanted to play with these for a long time.
Yeah. Do you love seeing like 8 of them cruising around the board every game?
Yep.
Fighting
Love it.
each other?
Love it.
All right, let's take a look here. Neutral, fine. I assume that's also neutral. Hate them, hate them, hate them. Love the concept. Don't love that they're must take. Cygnus, that's not the way we're doing this. Neutral, hate. Oh, there you go. Love. We got one love. Hate, neutral, hate, hate. There's a love. I'll call they are need a love. Hate, 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 neutral, neutral. Hate, hate, neutral, hate. Hate. Okay. Hate, neutral, neutral. Mm-hmm. Hate. Hate, hate, hate. Fine. Hate, hate, hate. Hate. Wait, let me tell you what. We gotta call up Charlie Murphy over here just because, like, gotta start rolling into this. Player haters are here. Yeah, I think that's a nice little non-scientific sample. I'm pretty sure if I just had everybody smiley face, neutral face, frowny face, that we would have a very frowny face. Okay. So, all right, cool. Yeah, daughters is fine. They're fine. Overall nice. Cities. What do you think about cities, Tom? Where are you living?
I think they're fine. I think they're low end of fine, but I think they're fine.
Low end of fine, but fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I mean-
can't we do like a live poll here? That's what I want to do.
I don't know, man. I don't know how to
new
do
tech.
that.
New tech we need to add to this show. That's all I'm saying.
Is there a way to do that? Probably.
We'll figure it out. We want to hear from you in a future show. We'll figure it out. Just
Yeah,
wait.
I'll figure out how to do it. I don't know, man. I don't know how to do that. Oh, start a poll. There, that's how you do it. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna do this in real time. We're gonna do the actual poll. I didn't know we could do this. All right,
This
cool.
is not going to end well.
No, shut up. It's fine. How do you find manifestations in AoS 4.0? We're going to do this right now. How do I change my answers? Here we go. Okay, cool. So, love them. Neutral. Add option. Hate them. Okay. Got it. We're doing it live, people. Add a little question mark there. Start poll. Yeah, we did a thing, Tom. YouTube's amazing. There, we did a thing. Okay, cool. All right, folks. Punch in your answers. Let's go. I know how technology works now. Well, that's running. Tom, hit me.
Yeah.
What's your Cities of Sigmar take?
I think that there are some good builds, but they're atypical builds, and they're not like all humans, right? Like they're a weird mix of just
it's
the
good.
right
I think there's more mix now, which is
way.
nice. It's easier to mix things, which is good. That's good.
Yep.
Honestly, I'm gonna say they're kind of lower end of fine. They're a little tricky to play. They've got some order stacking, but yeah, I'm with you. I think they're all right.
I think they're lower end of fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Almost a fine.
Slanesh.
Ooh. I think Slanesh is fine as well.
I agree.
I know that you don't feel that way, but
no, I mean I think they're probably top end of fine, honestly. Maybe just kissing nerf incoming on like a thing or two. Their battle trade is awful. It's just awful.
Yeah.
Right? But a lot of the shooty lists still do well. Their war scrolls are actually like there are many of their war scrolls that are actually quite decent. Okay. So there you go. I wish Slanesh had a battle trait that wasn't liquid hot garbage ipsum lorem text. They do.
Sure.
I wish they had sub factions that made me feel like they were worth taking. But like I suspect they'll come out decently strong in the results. They have some good tricks.
Right, but we're two passes past like utterly broken. So they're playable now.
Sure. Has everyone voted? I'm going to end the poll soon. Okay. So at any rate, I know how to do that too now. I figured that out. All right. So
there's almost 500 of you watching and only 178 have voted. So some of you
get voting, people. Click that vote. Make your voice heard. Okay. It's important. I will make sure it gets to the right people. I'll make sure it gets to top men. Yeah, I mean they're mostly fine. Okay. Skaven. Where are you living with Skaven? Again, understanding this is like the shortest review ever because in a month.
Yeah, I think they're fine. I think they're fine.
I think the results for Skaven look pretty garbo right now, from what I've seen. But I just think I don't know what the issue with that is. Honestly, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just people not having the units. I think it's probably a lot of inclusion of bad units, like a lot of people playing Skaven with the starter box or something. Like they went and painted out the starter box, and the reality is like the Claw Lord on Gnaw Beast is utter garbage. Like he's a terrible scroll. I mean, he looks beautiful.
He's beautiful. He's a beautiful, beautiful boy. Leave him alone.
Yeah. But I think they're fine. Like they're probably pretty middle of the road in my estimation. So, okay. Flesh Eater Courts. How you living there, Tom? Where are you living with that FEC?
I think they're at the top of fine. They don't have a lot of cheaty tricks, but I think that they're better than. They're not Night Haunt, but I think that they have some good tools. I think that most of it is just ghoul spam plus
Big Oosh.
Usheron,
yeah. The internal balance on the book sucks. That's the problem with it. Like I can't imagine running without Usheron. Is my honest answer.
No, that's really a shame. Agreed. Yeah. And realistically, for the way that I wanted to play, I basically have to have Gormain as well. So I can't deploy less than 3 drops in that army. And so like from how I want to play. And so then the challenge that I have is that it's just a rough go of it in a lot of armies, and they really do lack some good like battle tactic units as well. Man, they would really do well with some Felbats, but that's not something that they have.
Sure. All right, next up, it's Auric War Clans, our next tale of 2 tomes. Let's just split this up now, Tom. Here we go.
I don't think we need to do that. I think they're both at the bottom of fine. I think we're good.
Sure. I'm gonna go ahead and break this up. I'm gonna take the lead on this one. I'm gonna let you finish, but I'm going first. Okay, number 1, I think the Cruel Boy side of it is like broken directly between nerf incoming and fine. I don't know if they'll get first pass nerf, but they will eventually catch it once people figure this out. This is like another super high skill floor army, so their results are depressed, right? Because people just don't know how to play this army. It takes like a
and it's not just it takes a certain skill floor. There's actually another factor here. It's an army based on random rolls. Like all of your tricks, all of your everything is controlled by a dice. You can control that number, right, by how you deploy those abilities. But at the end of the day, all of your good stuff is a D6 roll. And if you don't at the end of when you average that across hundreds of games, it's going to average out.
Yep.
Now, they're going to blow some people out of the water, just completely out of the water because of good rolls. But that's not always going to happen. And so I think they're really good when everything's working right. So are Skaven Warp Lightning Cannons.
It's a fair point. You have a lot of control over, 2 up, a 3 up are still pretty reliable. But as you get there, first of all, Spike hates this army, and so there's just not going to be a lot of Spikes playing it because Spike hates betting their game plan on a 2 up or a 3 up. It's like very anti-Spike.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, but that's because you're Johnny, not Spike. Like you're 75-25, as we've discussed before.
Indeed.
And so like, Spike really hates this army, right? But anyway, we'll talk about that in a moment. Spoilers. But anyways, that's where they are. Iron Jaws are down in the. It's rough, kid. It's just is. It's a rough, kid. You want to play Iron Jaws? Yep. I'm sorry about your luck. It's a bad day for that. I can't believe they've done as decently average as they have in the stats thus far. I don't know what matchups these people are getting. I don't know what they're playing. But it's not my experience. I've had my teeth kicked in.
You're not running 40 yard boys. That's why.
Sure.
If you ran 40 yard boys, you'd be having a different game, Vince.
Sure. All right, the next split. Ogre Maw Tribes. Tale of Two Cities here as well. Why is every destruction faction like this? Because they're all multiple armies shoved into one book. And why they managed to get one of those armies right and one of those armies wrong. Ogre, the foot side of the house. Well, look, it's just gluttons, okay? Are fine, bordering on nerf incoming for being too good.
Just so much meat.
The BCR side, it's rough, kid. It's rough, kid. Okay. Like the regular like glutton side of it, they've got a lot of good stuff, but in the end, they are a pretty straightforward play experience still, right? It ends up playing a lot like Suns, where it's a bunch of objective control and a bunch of wounds, and it becomes a giant DPS check that also does like good damage, right? But they also have a lot of trap units in there as well. BCR is just in a bad place. I don't know what else to say it. So that's it. That's it. That's the army. Any disagreement?
Nope. I agree.
Yeah. Fire Slayers. Where are you putting Fire Slayers?
I think they're fine, bordering on nerf incoming.
I agree. I think they're like top of fine. I think they're probably slightly below nerf incoming, but I think they're mostly fine.
Yeah, I think that like people are still finding their legs with them.
Yeah. I agree. All right. Lumineth.
You can just slide them up into blue.
That's right. Let's go ahead and just drop them right up here.
But probably under Nighthaunt. Like
Absolutely
they aren't Nighthaunt. They are not Nighthaunt. No. But they're pretty good.
They're pretty good. Yeah.
Like anytime I'm looking at an army and I'm like, I don't know, I could go back to paint those up. Like that tells me that I'm probably looking at something that needs to be rebalanced.
Yeah, you moved the entire game more or less to 4s to hit, and then gave this army-wide neg 1 to be hit. And you're like, wow, I don't know why it's doing so well. That's so weird. Also, here's incredible shooters and some of the best heavy cav in the game that can be neg 1 to hit and charge in, doing oodles of mortal damage on a 5-up or whatever. I don't know. I can't crack the code, Tom. Why are they so good?
Weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, come on, man. Come on, son.
Yeah, Martin, that just comes down to building your army correctly.
I mean, yeah, yes,
as we talked about this morning.
Yes, they have some kind of weakness. Again, the trick for getting into nerf incoming is not flawless, right? Like, it's not they're good at everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, these can sometimes struggle on some battle tactics. That's cool. These guys suck at everything.
These guys can't get battle tactics, or maybe one per game.
Have them easily stolen relentlessly and can't do damage. So, like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Yeah. Okay. KO.
I don't even think that they play this game.
Like, it's...
They're rough, and I think they're rough for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
I think that they took the... ignoring the manifestation situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that they took the Unleash Hell change particularly badly as well. Um, and I think that some of the issues that we're seeing are like core fundamental issues. Like Balloon Boys, and I believe this to my grave, should be 3 wound models.
Sure.
If Thunderers are
small.
2 wound, what?
They're too small.
No, because they're dwarves with mech suits on. You have Thunderers at 2 wounds
It's about
each.
the physical size of the model now, Tom.
Well, I think that they're just wrong. Like I understand the design based on art philosophy, but you're just wrong. If Thunderers can be 2 wound models, I think Balloon Boys are 3 wound because there's two wounds in the guy and 1 wound in the balloon. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not. That's
balloons.
Fine. No, we got the. Yeah,
You're welcome.
Your Apple thing. Yeah. At any rate, yeah. No, I agree. I agree completely. All right, and there you go. That's the list. By the way, Tom, did you see what the final of the poll was? The final of the poll. How do you find manifestations in 4.0? 46% neutral, 39% hate them, 14% love them. That was with 227 votes. So, yes, all the things. All the things, Tom. So at any rate, it doesn't seem people are super jazzed about manifestations. Okay. All right. Neg 1 to wound for having a balloon. Oh, there you go. Sure. Like, it doesn't have to be a wound. There could be other benefits. Exactly. I'm with Coach. All right. Next up, Tom, you ready for the next tier list?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay.
Wait, you mean we don't get to be done in an hour? Oh.
We do not. No. Tier list number 2. Okay. And that is Johnny, Timmy, Spike, baby. That's right. Oh, where do they sit in the indexes? To very quickly explain for our viewers who might not be familiar, these are psychographic profiles. They are how the army plays and is sort of aligned to your psychographic profile, and it's what you draw value from when you play the game. So, for example, Johnny wants to express their intelligence. So they love list building and armies that have very complicated list setups and or armies that have very sort of Rube Goldberg machine-like plans, right? And being able to like combo off and high synergy. Timmy wants to experience something, usually something amazing. And so Timmy likes big dice, big monsters, big rolls, big things happening in the game, big swings. Spike likes efficiency, and what Spike wants to experience is victory. Okay? And so Spike is very much about winning. That doesn't mean they're a jerk. It doesn't mean they're win at all costs. Spike hates randomness. Spike likes predictability in their plan. Okay. So, this chart changes shape every time. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Every
how we
time.
keep you tuned in. That's exactly right, folks.
That's right. Okay, so here we go. Let's do it. I'll start the opposite direction this time. Okay, KO first. What is it? What even is this? We'll get this out of the way first. I assume it's like a Johnny challenge, right? Because how do you make this thing actually work?
Well, it's not. The problem is it's not Spike because it's not reliable. It's not doing any of those like raw numbers things, and it's not. Maybe it's Timmy, just shoot all the guns, right? But even then, like I think it is ultimately a Johnny edging Timmy army is how you would have to approach KO now in its current incarnation. That could change in the future.
But I agree.
Given
It might be slightly off the chart, but yes. This is the area for Johnny Timmy, by the way, this thing. So I'll move him kind of slightly.
Or like Vorthos is down there south, so you can just edge it into the story, into the narrative play, right?
Exactly. Yes, thank you, Haywo, for the very good summation. Timmy wants to feel something, Johnny wants to express something, Spike wants to prove something. Very good summation. Okay. All right, yeah, no one. They would go at the KO would go in the no one tier. Lumineth.
They, I would say, are a Johnny Spike.
Agreed. Completely agreed.
Just because of what they're doing, right?
Yep. Completely agreed. The nature of their tricks, the nature of what they do, it puts them straight into that space, right?
Yep.
100% yes. All right, Fire Slayers. Where are Fire Slayers going?
Fire Slayers, I would say, are a spike Timmy. They are reliable and they like to hit things. Like they are. I don't like. I know you're thinking Johnny Vince. I
I'm
know
not.
you're thinking
I'm not. I'm
Johnny.
not at
Oh,
all.
okay.
I'm not. I'm not.
Okay.
I was thinking whether or not how much they go into Spike was all I was thinking about. I agree
The
with you, Reed.
runes are what let them go into spike because it allows them to deploy the timing that they need to win. So that like there's a sequencing aspect towards victory for Fire Slayers. And there's a heavy reliability on those runes, and because of how those runes deliver the way they do. If you look how people are building, they're not building into the randomness and the like kill bodies to do buffs. That's not what they're building into. They're building into reliability, and they're building into hitting things hard. And so they are truly what I would say like a Timmy Spike army. Yeah.
Tom M said, if Spike wants to prove something, then wouldn't that imply that winning with an army that is not in the needs of nerf tier list would fit the psychographic profile? Sometimes there are subcategories of all of these, which we're not going to get into. But yes, there is a subcategory of Spike, usually one that overlaps with Johnny, where the proofs that that will try to take underpowered things that they have made good, and win with it, right? But remember, if you're like, prove something means I am good at this game, so I'm going to use the best tools possible. Like Johnny will nail a nail into the wall with the back of a screwdriver because it's what they had at hand and it's clever or whatever, right?
Right.
Spike is like nail.
It
accomplishes the goal in an orthogonal way. Spike, nail, hammer, hit, done. Okay.
Yeah, there's a ruthless efficiency to the Spike approach,
right?
Where
and so using like a weak thing would be strange for them.
Yeah, Spike would be like, "Why are you using a weak thing when you can use a strong thing?" Where Johnny's like, "But if I can accomplish the same thing with the weak thing, that means I'm better than you."
Right.
That's the Johnny response to Spike.
Exactly. All right, ogres. I mean, this is still like a Timmy army, right? Like it's still.
It is
Timmy
a Timmy army.
Timmy's.
Like I think it's I mean, it's not as Timmy as Sons, but it is Timmy.
Yeah, agreed. Like it's just, it still suits the deal. Like that's what it does. Auric War Clans, which honestly I don't think there's that much of a difference. I think it's a little bit of like, I think it dips its toe into a little bit of Johnny Timmy, but it's mostly Timmy in both armies. You know, like the Cruel Boy side of it expresses a little more Johnniness in the synergy and the buffs and stuff like that, and how you have to play cleverly.
I think both of them require Johnny now to win.
Agreed. Yep. Yes, Timmy tries to hammer the nail in with a sledgehammer. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yes, that's it. There you go. Okay.
Maybe Spike is the nail gun.
Sure. Yeah, no, you're right. Spike's like, why get this hammer out? Let's get a nail gun. Yeah. All right. Flesh Eater Courts. In their current incarnation. This is a tricky one. I have a take, but I want to hear what your thoughts are.
I think in their current incarnation, I put them as a Timmy, but like Timmy edging into Spike.
Defend that.
Okay. Because when you look at the tools and how they're incentivized to build, they have a couple tricky things, but in general, like they're going to win by hitting things like with lots of power, right? And so like right now, the way that you're building are like mass ghouls for most FEC, like any armies that are generally winning are doing it with overwhelming force.
Yeah, I think to me, that's kind of the opposite side take. I think they're really Johnny Spike, and I'll tell you why. You play a careful list building game with them, and then you have to play a very careful game with them too. Like they're very much an intelligence expression army, in the way you're like building your noble deeds, getting the right heroes in the right places to gain them, blowing them at the right times, restoring to the right units. Like they have a lot of decision points. Right?
Sure.
And heavy decision point armies tend to be more Johnny, right?
No, that's true.
And I think to be really effective with them, you have to be making the right decisions at the right times. And so, like, there you go. That's
yeah, maybe. Like, most of that army just skews so hard into efficiency, and like, I mean, yeah, maybe. Okay.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put them as the first one, really, really actually touching the center triangle, which just kind of has a little bit of the elements of all three, but lean them more heavily toward Johnny. Okay.
Okay. Yep. I can see that.
Skaven.
I think this is you, but I'm pretty sure that they sit in a like a Johnny space, probably Johnny Timmy space.
I think they're Johnny Spike. I really do. They don't.
Okay.
They don't. It's like, oh no, you're right. You know what? Center mass.
Because I'm thinking ogres. I'm thinking
crazy list building potential all over the place. Lots of powerful tools if you want to lean into it and just go spike. You can breed like the efficiency, but they have the random blow up stuff, and that's very Timmy. They're really all three. They're the perfect army. They sit in the center of the triangle. What was I thinking? Of course. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. There you go.
You can just keep saying that. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Slaanesh. I will be completely honest. I think Slaanesh right now is a pure spike army.
Do you really?
It's that easy. Yep. I think everything in it, because it's such a War Scroll focused army. Okay.
Okay. It's just efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Once you become a War Scroll focused army, and Behemoth, unbiased take. Yeah, exactly. That's my Skaven is my completely unbiased take. Slaanesh is like a very hard spike army. You pick the efficient units. It usually means a lot of the shooting. You take the units that
you don't use your mechanic to deny them. Like, yes, it's efficiency. It's efficiency and it's self-sacrifice in order to win. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly right. It's a pure efficiency trading play to win, path to victory.
Yeah,
and that's like classic spike crap. Playing a 2-mana 3/3 that dings you for damage at the start of your upkeep is like spike all the way, right?
And their mechanic is functionally like Necropotence. They're like, I'm not going to use I'm going to play normal game until I know that I can abuse this and take myself down, like penalize myself in order to secure the win.
Yeah, like Timmy playing, first of all, Necropotence.
I'm playing 90. Yeah, Necropotence.
As someone who mispronounces things professionally, I'm offended by that. But anyways, yeah. Necropotence, yes. Timmy playing Necropotence will be like, well, I can draw 2 cards, so I'll pay 2 life and draw 2 cards. Spike playing Necropotence is like, I'll draw 7, I'll draw 10. What takes me to 2 or 1 or whatever? How much damage could they potentially have on board and in hand? Whatever 1 point above that is. Okay. So, yes, Necropotence. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Okay.
Got him.
Cities. I think Cities is very, very clearly a Johnny army. It wants to work in. It is like, it's so Johnny it hurts. The orders and the way they work and the different synergies of the different units and everything like that. Like, it is so Johnny. Like, right? I mean, that's.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to be said. It is so very Johnny. Now, on the flip side, Daughters of Cain, honestly, sits purely in spike. Again, we're not talking about like book quality or anything like that. I think they're fine. But it's just like, it's a almost perfect spike army, right? Yeah. It has a very direct game plan. It will often trade. It knows exactly what it wants to do. Marathi plays perfectly into spike because she is the most predictable unit in the game. You can't accidentally lose her, right?
Yep.
Okay. Tzeentch.
I mean, go ahead.
Johnny Spike, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. That's where we're putting it. Like, yep. Very obvious. It always has been. It probably always will be. So, yeah, there you go. Gits.
I mean, it's a Timmy army. It's
100% a Timmy army.
It's maybe edging somewhat towards Spike, but it's a Timmy army.
Yeah. It's completely like in design. Keep in mind, this doesn't have to do with win rate, everybody. Like, I don't care what your current stats are. It's irrelevant. I'm speaking like from a design perspective, what is this appealing to? And
like what type of player?
Right.
You know, like if you know your psychographic profile, what types of armies will you likely enjoy playing?
Exactly. And to me, Gitz just sits purely in Timmy. Maybe it hedges over a little bit more this direction toward Johnny than some of the other ones, right? Like I could see that just kind of slightly towing in there. But it's like, it is a super Timmy force. Yeah. IDK. This is another, like, I don't know, maybe off board. No, I mean, go ahead.
I think it is a Johnny army or a Johnny. Like, I think it's probably a purely Johnny army.
Yeah. I'm with you. I was going to tow it just slightly in on the other side where it just like corner touched the center area of Timmy Johnny. Because of Big Turtle and stuff like that, right? Big sharks. Like they want you to play with this menagerie and have like a random big turn here or there. Like it literally is like Big Turn the army because of its high tide.
It is. Yeah, no, like the high tide makes it like it is your Rube Goldberg machine, right? Like it is you're constructing the sequence of events until you hit high tide and then win the game.
Right. Corn. I'm just gonna go ahead and set this way down here in the corner of Johnny, far away from everything else. It doesn't know the other ones exist. It's never seen or heard tale of them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, do you think that Spike sacrificing its units gives it any flavor of Spike? No. Or do you think that's purely still a Johnny?
I think it's
still Jund. It's Jundy Johnny.
Yeah, 100%. It is a Rube Goldberg machine you are trying to operate at all points in time that is running on blood. Right, like that's what it is.
That's fair.
It is this careful tactical dance army that you sit around and play ballet with. For your murder god's pleasure. Like, that's what it is.
Sure.
Right. Saul Rothman says, I'm a Timmy and I don't know what else, but I love my Fire Slayers and Gargants. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Corn, full Johnny. Corn's publicist, pure Timmy. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Night Haunt. In its current incarnation, it is up at the top of the Spike area. It is reliability in 10 cities, okay? Like, everything about the army. Yeah. Never get trapped, never get caught off turn. Yeah.
Yep.
100%. What is Nurgle right now?
I don't know that Nurgle knows what it is, which is why it should be hanging out with KO over in the Vorthos board.
I have a suggestion, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. I think right now, as it's written, it sits pretty firmly in Timmy space. I think that's what Nurgle is right now.
Okay.
It's a big guo. It spreads disease. It does very much what it thinks it's going to do, right? Like it's a very simple plan. It's not an effective plan right now. Okay.
Sure.
You could imagine the world where it is.
Right.
Where it has this same strategy, but it's a very Timmy army. It plays none of the like cheat games. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a Timmy army.
That just likes to be punched.
Yeah, like, but if you want to experience something, it is the experiential army. It still does very much what it says on the tin. You know, you look at the Haywo's joke. You look at the publicist for Corn, right? And it's like blood for the blood god, skulls for the throne of Corn, murder. And then it's like, now I will carefully move my pieces, and then this will be the chaff for this, and then I will murderlust this piece in and shut off your charge, and and then I will spend this blood tithe to do this. And it's like this careful balance. You look at it's complete misalignment.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at the Nurgle army and it's like, we're the army all about disease.
Forward.
And getting hit and living, and then you play it and like, yeah, that's how it works. That's just not a very good strategy. Yes, you give people disease and kind of don't die. It's just that doesn't actually win you any games.
Yeah.
Right? OBR. I have an answer here.
I think it's a Spike army.
Okay. Unpack it. Explain.
Because I think it is about ruthless efficiency, and it is about layering the right things on the right things in order to accomplish the things you need.
Okay. Stuart's in the chat, the Iron Gutsman. He said corn is basically like you grew up playing with toy dinosaurs and now you work at a bank. That is so accurate, it hurts. Okay, Stuart, you are dead on as always. All right, I'm going to make an argument here for OBR. I agree with you in principle that it's very spiky, its reliability and all of that. But I'm going to have it half touch the center triangle because at the same time, it has elements of both of the Timmy and Johnny-ness in it. I actually think it's more spike than anything else. But if I was going to break it down, it'd be like 50 spike and then 25, 25, right? Because using your different orders or whatever they're called, you know, your thingamajiggies, or what we used to call RDP, right? At the making sort of the right choices with those, and like
I don't know. Neither of us play that army.
Yeah, exactly. I played it against it plenty, but yeah. But there's like it's only touching that area through kind of its play style, not really through its like list construction and synergies. Whereas again with the Timmy, it feels very much like it is super representative of the thing. I want my unbreakable infantry, and against many armies they can achieve that sort of thing, right? Where they just kind of won't get lifted. Okay. Soulblight.
Oof. They're Johnny Spike.
Agreed. They sit right here beside Zinch, like right beside Zinch, just like hard Johnny Spike area. It's exactly what they are. Exactly. Again, like use these clever things and use them in reliable ways and so on and so forth. Yes, I agree. Okay. Stormcast. I have an easy answer here. Okay, while you're thinking. Tell me if you agree with this read. Again, what they want to be. What they want to be is Timmy Spike.
Sure.
That's what they want to be. Right?
But what they are is Timmy Johnny?
No, I think that's what they are. I think they're bad at it, right? Like, it's just, like, they want to be the reliable center anvil that, like, also has big dragons that breathes cool fire and, you know, has dudes who come in with smashy hammers and stuff like that, you know. Look at the stuff I get excited about. Look at my Stormcast army, right? It's dragons and Bastion Carthalos and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
That right there just and all that stuff is like supposedly very reliable, good armor saves, easy ability to stack it, you know, yada yada yada, right? The problem is they just get out tricked in the current world. Okay. Seraphon. Should we just go ahead and drop them right in with Soulblight and Zinch? In the Johnny Spike territory?
Yeah. I think they're a little bit more central than that. Like I think they have some Timmy in there too. But I think that they are still on that left side of the triangle.
Agreed. I'm going to touch the corner of their book into the central triangle because they also, like, some part of their identity is absolutely big dinosaurs are cool, right? Like, and that's like you're heading down to the right side of the triangle. All right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. SCE want to be what S2D actually is. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of S2D, by the way, same thing. Timmy Spike. Yeah. Like, again, they're in the same space as Stormcast. They just do it better.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Like, philosophically, psychographically, it's the same experience.
Yep.
They're just better at it right now.
Yep.
Okay. Sons of Behemoth. Hold on, let me clear some space down here in the bottom right of Timmy.
Yep.
Gotta get way over in the corner. They're in the same way that Korn doesn't even know the others exist. The Sons have never heard of Spike or Johnny. They don't know what this is about. They don't know what you're talking about. They just know big, giant, steppy things, smashy little people, right?
Yep. They'll step on whoever the Spike and Johnny are.
Yeah. Tom M. Don't Chaos God marks kind of push S2D toward Johnny, though? No. Because you just take the Nurgle mark, because it's simply the best one.
Right.
Like, they're so easily evaluated. Yeah, like, you take your one Khorne unit that's your charger, and then everything else is Nurgle marked. There. Done.
Yep.
Like there has to be actual choice points for Johnny to care. And when you have things that are so clearly where one is better than the other, it's just Sylvaneth.
They're pure Johnny, I think, is like, I don't know that they're Spike almost at all.
No, there's no Spike. I think they want to be partially Timmy is my answer.
You think they want to be Johnny Timmys? I think they're 100%. Mostly Johnny.
Agreed. They're way more on that side. I agree. Yep. I think they're like 50-50 N for like big trees, Alarial, you know, a lot of like stuff like that. But if you try to play them like a straight Timmy army, you'll just lose instantaneously.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, there we go. That's the breakdown, folks. There's your figure out what you are. What is your take of yourself? And you know, then this should hopefully help you guide you as to what index or what army is for you.
It's so funny. So I decided to do, like, before I knew, we knew what they were going to be. Like my son wanted to do Iron Jaws. He wanted to do like the Orc army for Holy Havoc, and so I was like, sure, I'll do Cruel Boys. And I have to laugh because like it's like a non-serious kind of fun run for me, right? And so I just find it hilarious that like I find myself in like always a Johnny, but sure, for this type of thing, I'm gonna go Timmy Johnny rather than Spike Johnny.
Yep. And I agree, Grandmaster. Skaven truly are the only perfect army. They really are. They contain multitudes. Like there it is. Like it's. We have found the center of the triangle, the axis point upon which all other armies turn and rotate. It's a beautiful thing to behold. All right, one more tier list, everybody. We're not done yet. I know you thought we were done, but no. All right, Tom, you ready for the last tier list? Okay. All right.
We're ranking all manifestations.
No. It's all the armies again. Okay? This is a different take. This is what I call the creativity tier list for like how creative were they in inventing this? All right, in creating this index. How much did they
phone it in?
Phone it in, yes, exactly, right? And provide you with like, so the 3 tiers here are multiple paths, which means you have multiple interesting options and things to do and ways to victory. The middle tier is a few options. You got some stuff. They cared a little, right? And then 1 line or less means that like they like it was 4 p.m. on a Friday and somebody was like, I got to get this thing done. And like, by the way, I'm saying this as a joke. I really don't want to insult the rules writers. They had a lot of work. This is an immense amount of work they did in a very short amount of time. So like, I'm not actually meaning to insult anyone, but it is very clear that these indices have like different amounts of sort of knowledge and investment from the people who are writing them into the individual army, as one would expect. With 25 armies, even with your team, it's not as though you can have somebody who plays every army and has that depth of level of knowledge about it, right? To like truly invest in everything. So how I've summarized this is, do you have multiple paths, multiple play patterns, multiple paths to victory, so you hence a resilient book? Do you have a few options where you've got kind of like, you know, you got some different things you could try, but it's within 1 or 2 limited paths? Or do you just like, this is the thing, this is all I've got? You could have the strongest army in the game right now be done in 1 line or less.
Yep.
Right? Okay. So, all right. Here we go. Tom, one more time. Here we are. Sylvaneth.
1 line or less.
1 line or less. Very easy. 100% down there. Right? It is like Alarial, Belthanos, Tree Lady, bow shooters. Yeah.
Yep. And maybe Durthu. Like maybe another hitter.
Like pray to God you get your woods out and you can accomplish something. Yeah, it's 1 line or less. Okay. Sons.
1 line or less.
1 line or less. It's a combat focused army. Go sit on a point, take it. Retreat away from combat if you start to lose wounds. Otherwise, pray off turn and every turn for the restore your health to all giants on the table thing. That's it.
Yep.
It is one of the most mono-dimensional armies in the game. Right? They need to be down here farther. Okay. S2D.
A few options.
Agreed.
You
But
can
I
either do
put
Archeon, or you can do Bellicor, or you can do Abraxia with Vanguard.
Yeah, but I think they're actually the top of a few options, just kind of kissing
Sure.
multiple paths. Because
Sure.
again, like I said, I think right now there's a
Like
real
Chosen
strong
are not
efficiency play.
terrible. Yeah.
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 But if Varangar come down, a few other things move just slightly. The reality is, I do think things like Marauders have a lot of play. I think things like he's chosen Knights, Warriors.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of stuff in that book that has interesting play, right?
Yep.
The Godmark thing alone, Tom, wouldn't be enough to make it one line or less. Like it's not just one option, because like there are still different army constructions that could happen.
Right.
We're talking about the total army construction here.
Yep.
Just because everybody's Nurgle marked doesn't like change fundamentally what's happening here.
That would be like, yes, everybody takes that command trait. That doesn't
or everybody takes some sub faction. Sure, that doesn't mean you like. That doesn't mean you're down in one line or less.
Yeah, we can talk about Nighthaunt here in a minute.
Yeah. Seraphon, where are you putting him?
Seraphon, I think there's a few options, but they're moving down towards one line or less.
Completely agreed. You nailed my take exactly. I think they're pretty in the few options on the lower side of it. They've got different units that actually rate that are pretty good. They've got different scrolls. They have some good magic. They can take a couple different paths. They can play a little tricksy. They've got some things. I don't think they're all the way up in multiple paths though.
Yeah.
Okay. Stormcast.
I would say they have a few options.
Bottom of that
Like,
barrel.
again,
Yes, I agree.
Bottom of that barrel. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like they almost have to be just based on the sheer number of scrolls and the fact that Sacrosanct's part of it right now. That's doing a lot.
Yep.
You've got the Vanguard doing a lot, right? Like you have dragons potentially. Like it's there. There's a couple different paths they have. Honestly, they might be even up a little farther. I think I'm underrating them. I'm going to put them right in the middle of a few good options. I talked myself into it. Okay. Soulblight.
I think they have multiple paths.
I agree. I think Soulblight's in the multiple paths category. There's actually quite a lot of good going on in Soulblight. Interesting traits, lots of good units, lots of potential heroes. Yeah, I agree. Like Blood Knights, Graveguard, zombie spam, a bunch of dire wolves, going heavy Virkos, right? Like there's just there actually is multiple paths in his army.
Yep. You can play your vampire RPG game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Prince Vorderai and such, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
OBR. I'm going to be honest with you, Tom, right now, I think it's one line or less. Top of that pile, but it is. I think it's Death Riders right now. It's like
Nagash and Death Riders.
Yeah. I wish that wasn't the case, but I really think that's pretty much the case right now.
Okay.
Nurgle, I don't even know that they have one line, but it does say or less. So down there. Nighthaunt. What's the top of multiple paths look like?
Yes, exactly. They are as above as Nurgle is below.
Yeah. Like, Nighthaunt has so many, like, they have a bunch of a panoply of rich abilities that, again, even though they take one sub-faction, there's actually, like, one or two other good sub-factions in there, too, that would be perfectly fine if that one wasn't so good. And their good units are myriad, right? Yeah. Like, if only Hex Wraiths get nerfed, then everybody's just going to play BG, Blade Guys Revenants, and Dread Scythe Heritance, right? That'll be the switch. Like, they have so many units they can jump to, like a Hermit Crab. Right?
Well, and they're all the same points. They're all, like, 150. Like, all of those other highly efficient units are those... Like, and all of them can mix and match with various flavor, and they're near the same efficiency. 10 wounds on a 4-up unrendable save. Decent combat profiles on 3-ups to hit, or close to it. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Khorne.
Oh, I think for Khorne, I would say that I think there's a couple lines.
Agreed. I put them firmly in a few options. Again, I think one of their major challenges is really just in the list building phase right now because they're restrictive. But like I think mortals, there's multiple mortal units that have good potential, multiple demon units that have good potential, right? They have some good leaders that they can choose from. Like so my take is they're pretty much in a few good options. Like they're there. Maybe even kind of higher side of that really. If they get, like I said, if they get even like minimal points drops kind of across the board, I think they'll explode up into multiple paths pretty fast. Idneth, it's one line or less, right? I mean, that's
Yep.
okay. Gits.
Man, I think Gits have one line or less.
Agreed.
And that's trolls.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just sold my Squigapalooza or Squigalanche Battle Force box a couple days ago, and I kind of felt bad about it, but then I just realized it was all squigs, and we know what that looks like right now.
Right. Tzeentch. I'm going to actually put Tzeentch, I think, dead in the middle of a few options. That's where I'd place him. Okay. Because I don't think they actually have tons of paths. I think it's kind of like two paths. It's like heavy magic manifestations and the less good one, which and horrors or whatever, and then some Zangor type of stuff.
Sure.
I think that's pretty much the story of Tzeentch. It's like in those two places. Sorry, Coach. I think Coach was reacting to us putting like Gits down here or something. I'm not sure which one you're reacting to, but yeah. I mean, I think they're pretty firmly in a few options. Daughters.
Daughters. I think that there is probably a couple different ways to play.
Yeah, I think they're kind of the bottom of that particular item. I think all their armies kind of tend to be pretty samey past a point. But yeah, I agree. They're like the bottom of a few good options, but they do have a few good options.
Yeah.
What about cities?
I think cities are one line or less.
Really? I was going multiple paths. Take me through your reasoning
like,
on that.
It feels like to me the path to victory is a mixed arms path. That it looks like no matter which kind of mix of units, in general, you're going to basically be building almost the same force. Like every time that there is one good efficient thing for your anvil unit, there is one good efficient thing for your hammer unit. Like there's some other stuff, but in general, I think people will gravitate towards the same things. Now, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. I think there's a lot of interesting play, especially between the different like dwarves, elves, humans, stuff like that. I think there's some interesting choices to be made there. I really do.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll say this: I haven't been convinced enough to actually play my cities, based on what's there. Like because it just feels like I'm building the same thing every time. That's not what I want to build, so I don't want to play.
Well, I'm going to put them up here on top of a few good options, just kind of crossing out, just kissing multiple paths, because that's where I'm going to place my bet. But I understand where you're pushing on it. I think for most players they would find this to be like actually have cross into that space. Slaanesh, it's one line or less, right? Like that's the line is the shooters.
Yeah.
You're gonna like it's a keeper, it's shooters, it's it's a very like static sort of repeated play pattern, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I agree, Bartz. I just think that the top end on these guys is on cities is really high. Okay. Skaven. I mean, they're up here at the top of multiple paths along with Nighthaunt. Again, like we're just talking about like what's in the book, right? What's there as options. They have so many paths to victory. Potentially, like Skaven, unlike most others, you've got 3 to 4 sub-factions that are all highly playable, right? Like mixes of shooting, melee, tricks, everything. Like they are way up top on multiple paths. And that's in just the index, Tom. That's not assuming like I assume we're going to get new units with the book, right? So that should go even farther, which is exciting, I think. I don't know if we'll ever get Eshin Catharsis, but I hope so. FEC.
I think FEC is 1 line or less.
Agreed. Yeah, completely agreed.
Everybody's going to take Usheron, and then you're going to either take a Gore Warden or you're going to take the Arch Regent, and you may or may not take Gore Maiden.
Right. And
season
then,
to taste.
Yep. Then a lot of ghouls and potentially whatever. Right. Yep.
Yep. Maybe 2 players and a courtier in one of in Usheron's faction or in his regiment or whatever.
Orc War Clans. Where are we sitting with these guys?
What I'll say is this. I think that...
And do we need to split them up?
I don't think we need to split them up. And I think, in general, they need to live in a few options. I'm not going to say those are good options, but it does feel like you have a couple different build options that are generally variations. Like, it's not a single line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I think about Cruel Boys, it's not a single line. But I do regularly see people coming up with very similar lists, like whether they're wanting to lean into shooting, or whether they're wanting to lean into monsters, or whether they want to be just all the what's their faces?
Um,
Gut-rippers.
They're gut-rippers, right? Like, in general, they end up skewing one of those directions. And the same is largely true with Iron Jaws. I think that there is a pigs build, like a big pigs build, not like a...
It can't be all big pigs, but yeah, sure.
Yes, but agreed. But I think that there is like a pretty strong line big pigs build, even though a majority of what we're seeing is almost all art boys.
Yeah.
And then some people really want to make brutes work. I understand that, but in general, like, it does feel like there are a couple options, but I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. And what I mean by that is this: yes, you may do really heavy art boys, but that's either going to be supplemented by big pigs or it's going to be supplemented by brutes.
Yeah.
Like, in general, it's some mix match of those 3 pieces together.
I'm with that. I put them here at the bottom of a few options, pushing into 1 line or less. I think that's where it feels like. Ogres.
Oof, 1 line or less.
1 line or less. It's like your path right now is what? It's glutton spam with the glutton buffers, right? Like, that's what it is.
Yep.
And or gorgers.
Maybe a monster truck.
Maybe a monster truck, maybe not. But like, it's gluttons as the strong center of the army. With the normal heroes, you would have buff them, and then a Gorger Maul pack or something like that, right? Like, that's the play. Okay. Fire Slayers.
I would say that I think it's 1 line or less, and it's just because they're all the same.
Yep. Agreed.
Like there's just not enough unit variation in that army to not be the same thing.
Agreed. Completely.
That's the problem, and that's always been the problem.
Yep.
I have so many Fire Slayers, and I haven't put them on the table in an edition just because literally it feels the same. Doesn't matter what I'm playing. It's always the same story.
Lumineth? We just slide them up into the blue?
It's so funny. I actually think that Lumineth, I think that they sit firmly in the middle between a few options and multiple paths. And the reason why I say that is this. With Lumineth, I really think that there's they suffer almost the same problem, but to a lesser, it's not as harsh as like Iron Jaws, where you have 3 different tiers of building, 3 different units, and you're going to mix and match those to varying degrees of your stone guys, your full Venari, and your mobility regiment, right? And there's some mix of either you double up on Venari, leave out the stone boys, or you and then you have some mobility mix of either the river people or the horses. But in general,
you're definitely taking 1 unit of river people.
Yes. In general, what I would say is it feels like it's a very there's a couple ways to play that army, but I don't see a lot of people. There's not a lot of techless builds out there, right? There's not a lot of alternative ways to play, then Venari Heavy may or may not have Venari Heavy with the river may or may not have stone guys. That's it. Like that. It feels like
Huracan as well. Don't leave that's why I think it might. That's why I'm still seeding them pretty decently into multiple paths, because I think the Huracan has play. I think a lot of the Venari units have play. You're right. I think there can be a stone play. You got a lot of good casters. Like, you can change the mix. The twins are solid. Like, I think there's like, Dawn Riders are preeminently good right now, and so I think it's kind of hedging out a lot of other options. But I think there is a lot of quality in that book.
If I had thought about this before if I had spent the time to actually think through, we should have done level setting at the beginning. And I think it actually rests in how many different heroes does any one faction have running its regiments. I think actually the hero selection is what this determining factor is for this chart, of multiple paths, a few options, one line or less. Because I think that I think how many heroes that an army can build with is directly tied to whether it's red, green, or blue here.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's interesting. Okay.
Because there's a lot of armies that you're going to have the exact same mix of heroes no matter what your composition is. It's always going to be the same. And then and then you're, like, those are your one line or less, right? And
often, I don't think it's only that, but I think Nighthaunt often have the same hero mix. They just have like 30 different units they could take. I'm exaggerating, but like, they have a bunch of different units they can take that are all good because their heroes are fine.
Right, but does that? But like, and this was one of the critiques.
Their heroes also are not a heavy part of their list, points wise.
Right. And the question is like, does that really change the list at all? And I don't know that it does.
I mean, I think it, like, my point is that, like, with Nighthaunt, you actually have a lot of decent options as to how you build out your list. They might all play very similar-ish, but you've got a lot of different paths and choices you can take in the game that'll get you there, almost regardless of the units you take. They're so resilient, and just like, their base rules are also strong across the board, right? Like, every War Scroll shows up twice as good as any other basic War Scroll in the game.
I'm simply wanting to acknowledge that in general, I think there's going to be a stronger than expected correspondence between hero versatility, right, and how they map into each of these columns.
Sure.
That's what are these categories. That's all I would say.
Okay. Well, can we just finish out with dropping KO down here in one line or less, and then call it a tier list?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is KO. The current spread. That's
they need to fly high somewhere else.
Yeah. All right. Let's do a little quick look back, shall we, Tom? We've done it. We've done 3 tier lists in about 2 hours. See, I told you it wouldn't be that bad. I knew we'd do it. Let's take a look back here. Let's look at our power tier list first. So as you can see, here's the power spread. You'll notice some people appear twice. That's because, like, Gits only trolls versus Gits everything else. Cruel Boys versus Iron Jaws. Glutton heavy foot ogres versus BCR, and so on and so forth. Why is it all the destruction tomes are like this? Because they don't know how to make just like simplified power hitting armies. They only know how to lay on rules complexity for tactical gameplay.
Yep.
Okay. But at any rate, I think that's a pretty good representation of your sort of nerf incoming, fine, and it's rough kid. You're obviously your standout winners: Nighthaunt, LRL, Tzeentch, potentially Suns, potentially some of the other, like, these guys are the problem with like ogres, Gits, and Cruel Boys is that they won't. Well, maybe Cruel Boys will, because I think they count those separately usually. But like, Gits and ogres won't show in the stats.
Yeah.
Because they'll get drugged down by their weaker counterparts. People will still show up and play the bad versions of the armies, and so they'll look normal, even though if you actually broke it down, it would be like.
Or core clans.
Yeah. Well, like with Oryx, I think they tend to, in the stats, split them up. Like, you actually play either Iron Jaws or Cruel Boys. Those are 2 separate armies. Whereas, like, you don't play Trolls versus Goblins, or whatever, right? It's not actually 2 separates. People just tend to. Our Spike, Johnny, Timmy triangle. We have. I'm happy we have 3 perfect exemplars. Our top of the spike triangle is Nighthaunt. Our tip of the Johnny triangle is Corn, and our tip of the Timmy triangle is Suns. Within Skaven, being perfectly balanced, right in the middle, as all things should be, just right there.
There's a nice spread. I will say that
Yeah.
there's a nice spread between the three psychographic profiles.
I agree. I think it is one thing I don't think they've ever taken it into account. Like, I don't think they think like this in the way Magic designers do. But I think that because they do so much like top-down design, that it sort of becomes an emergent property of how they design books unconsciously. Because if you just top down these armies, the top down concept, if you just explained it, like rules completely agnostic, would fall into different places in this triangle.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yeah, they 4E the 4th edition D&D character classed it.
Yeah. Yep. And then finally, what we just finished up our sort of creativity of like how many options, how versatile is the army, how resilient is it, etc. How much investment did we get in the index, and having lots of different interesting paths and ways to play. And we can see here that basically we've got Soulblight, Nighthaunt, and Skaven with possibly Lumineth up in the top, and then we got a big chunk of people with 1 line or less down at the bottom. Like, boy oh boy, is that a chunk. We got 11 tomes sitting firmly in the 1 line or less category. That means those armies are fragile. So even if they do well, it becomes very easy for them to fall off.
Yep. Like, they are spamming basically a single build.
Mm-hmm. Or minor variations of their end.
Yeah. If even that. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Ben, would you consider the large red and blue sections to be a flaw with this edition? I don't know. I think with the indices, this is always what's going to happen to some degree. I think this isn't as bad as 40K for sure. Like, no matter the spread, like, I'm hiding a little bit of the actual data here because I like, yes, there's this spread, but I think something like 40K was way worse.
I mean, ideally, if it were me designing a game, right, I would want all of my battle tomes on this last slide up in the blue. Like, ideally, what you want is you want every book to have multiple paths to victory.
Right.
So
you'd want to group as much up. Like, on the first one, you'd want everybody grouped in the green. That's your perfect spread. And we are still, I think, you're heavily there. But you got a lot of, we have outliers. Like, I don't want to undercut it.
Yep.
On the last one, whereas in this one, you want to see it almost completely evenly spread. Kind of how it is, frankly, on the Johnny Timmy Spike. And then on the paths, you would want to see everybody grouped up top. Like, in a perfect world, that blue box is just packed full of 25 armies.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So there's kind of different goals with each of these, right?
And I think that's something dynamic that they'll have to just work through as the edition matures, right?
Yeah.
Like, you no matter how much you want to design to that goal, you're never going to get there. Like, that is a work of development. That is not a work of design, right? Like, that is something that emerges over time as the knobs get turned, as the system gets refined. And the reality is that I think the bones of the edition are great, and that's your slide 2, right? Yeah. Your psychographic profiles. The bones.
Because ultimately, that's what people will draw, like, actual psychological value from. Positive psychological utility will be drawn from it in playing those armies, because there's a spread as long as people are aligned. Yeah.
And the reality is if you look at the first slide, we're not too far out of the box on the first slide. In that we have a lot of green. It would be great if the blue comes down and the red comes up, but we do have quite a bit of green, right? Mm-hmm. Now the last slide is concerning to me.
Sure.
Like, so from a design standpoint,
it means they've got a lot of work to do in the battle tomes.
That's exactly right. Like, when they move from the faction focus or the faction packs to the battle tomes, there's a lot of cleanup work in development. Like, they need to figure out how they take the threads that they've already started with these faction packs and more fully flesh out lines of play.
Agreed. Yep. And you're right. People are saying like it's hard to do that when you've got, you know, like 5 units in the book. You're absolutely correct, of course. Like,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
you can't. Like, it could still be done. You can have 5 units and have multiple paths to victory. It can be done.
Well, but that's part of the problem, is that some books arguably are inherently handicapped. Like Fire Slayers
Sure.
would be a great example of this. They need 3 more units. Like if they had 3 more non-hero units, let's be clear, then I think that like building those paths are easier than when you have 5 units total in an army of non-hero unit, right? Like
Agreed.
the design has to be way more on razor's edge there, if you're going to make it work with so few units.
Yep. Alessandro, does any army work well with Gotrek? I really have no idea. I try not to think about him, so that's my answer to you. Okay. Sporadicus says, I was hoping IDK would throw out turn 3 tides to help open up our lines of play. Yeah, agreed. And let's see. I don't know that Rob proved that, but he certainly experienced that. Yes, I think All Big Pigs is not a good line of play. I would take it a little more than one test game to say proved it, but nonetheless, I take your meaning. I do think it's a bad army. I think prima facie on its face, it's a bad army. All right. Well, there we go, folks. Hey, do you disagree with something? Well, then tell us what you think. Put that down in the comments below. Hit like if you haven't already. It's so easy. You just move your little mouse over or press your little finger down on your phone or your laptop or whatever you're watching this on right now. I don't know. Maybe you're watching this at a drive-thru in the middle of Iowa. They've projected Warhammer Weekly onto a giant old drive-thru right before like the scene in Twister. I don't know. Could happen. If so, then, you know, maybe go up and press on the drive-thru screen and hit like. That'll work. At any rate, subscribe. Do things that make dings. You'll be cooler for it. Yes, I will see everybody at NashCon. That'll be very fun. But thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Hope you found this helpful, useful, interesting, and entertaining. If you did, consider supporting the show. Lots of ways you can do so down there. There's affiliate links if you're picking up your hobby supplies for the new army you're working on for 4th. It doesn't cost you anything extra and gives the channel a kickback. There's our merch store down there. You can get a shirt with Tom's little sprite or my sprite on it, or my wife and my dogs on it if you want. We have the my wife and the Hounds of Chaos on there, the Canines of Chaos. So check that stuff out. And of course, there's our Patreon, focused on review and feedback and taking your next step on your hobby journey. But no matter what you do, just share the show, talk about it, leave a comment. All that stuff is completely free and helps a lot. As always, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next Wednesday.